You probably don't need me to remind you that Cracker Barrel made the headlines for all the wrong reasons not too long ago. They ditched their iconic logo, and it created a huge mess. Their stock lost nearly $100 million in value overnight, and they became a laughingstock on the internet. Branding is vital for businesses, and as Cracker Barrel showed us, getting it wrong can cost you big time. That's why this video is all about the right way to build a trustworthy brand. Today, John Felkins from EntreLeadership is sitting down with our Senior Creative Officer, Tim Newton, who will show you what it takes to develop a brand that customers love, and more importantly, how to avoid making a 9-figure mistake like Cracker Barrel.
Well, Tim, we're here to talk about something really interesting that's happened, and that is this whole Cracker Barrel rebrand thing. Why was that such a disaster?
You could pretty much just boil it down to these changes look like they forgot their values, and that's basically what happened,
Yeah.
And so there are certain things that we've grown to expect about Cracker Barrel that people love and have known about Cracker Barrel for decades. And then all of a sudden, bam, like that, the design says something completely different.
Yeah.
After they've been building this thing for decades, forgot who they are.
Right.
When it comes down to it, it's the craziest thing. There's a lot of emotional connection with Cracker Barrel, obviously.
Yeah.
Which was something pretty cool for them to see of how meaningful that brand is for people. So don't completely drop what you've been doing with the brand.
What are the biggest lessons we should learn from this?
I think the biggest lesson is know who you are and understand how your brand is reflecting who you are. And then just stay consistent with that. You build a brand over time. It's consistency over time that builds a brand, because all that trust comes down to is time and consistency. Like that's what we trust, people who are consistent over time,
I've also heard you say brands are like people or like a person.
Oh, yeah.
How's that work in this mix?
Yeah, honestly, I look at how humans interact, and then I say that's how a brand should interact. The way that we walk, talk, and dress is all an outward expression of what we believe. And so the same with a brand. The logo, the colors, the experiences, all that is an outward expression of inward values. When it comes to things like Cracker Barrel, I said don't make drastic changes. You can make some small changes. That's because as people, our style matures over time. It slowly changes over time, but our values rarely change. As styles mature, that's just happening as time goes by, but still the style is connecting back to the values that are underneath, And so what's interesting about Cracker Barrel is it's like, if I were to put it in people terms, it's like Cracker Barrel was dressing like an old man, and then they showed up the next day and dressed like they were in a fashion show. You know what we call people in real life that do that? Crazy people. Because we trust what's predictable. We don't trust what's unpredictable. And they did something unpredictable. They did something out of the ordinary. When we see our friends show up completely different the next day, the first question we ask is, are they okay?
Yeah, what's going on?
And that's what happened with that brand is all of a sudden trust broken because they came looking completely different.
What can people do day in and day out? What are the little things that establish that trust?
Something we talk about here is everybody on the team is responsible for the brand, because every interaction that customers have is an opportunity for the brand to come through, And so it's the same with small businesses, Like if a business is saying, take a plumbing business or something like that, if they say that we're going to care about your home as much as you do, when one of their team members comes to the house and puts booties on their feet, that is indicating to me that they're going to care about my house in as much as I care about my house.
Right.
Like that means a lot to me. I was thinking about this the other day, where a few years ago I was moving, right? And the moving company came up to my house, and the driver was just smoking a cigarette, with his arm out the window like that. And I was watching, and I noticed immediately, I was like, I'm not sure he's going to take care of my stuff very well. And I just recognized like that was the feeling that came over, right?
Yeah.
And they ended up doing a really great job, And so then I pulled that guy aside and I said, hey, can I give you some feedback? And he said, sure. I said, look, man, when you first drove up, I assumed that you weren't going to really take care of my stuff very well because of the way that you came to my house. I said, if you come to people's houses looking professional and come in, I said, you could smoke somewhere else, where the customer doesn't see. But if you come and you look ready to go, the customer's going to see you and say, they're going to take care of my stuff. And that's going to do much better for your brand in the long run. And he said, oh man, thanks for the feedback. Any of those small interactions like that says something about the brand. The way that your team member is interacting with a customer, it says something about the brand. It indicates something. And so if your brand is saying, we are friendly, we're reliable, we're going to take care of your stuff, make sure your team member knows how to do actions that prove that is true.
Yeah. So for Cracker Barrel, a whole lot of zeros associated with this change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
How does it translate? Why is it important for the small business, you think?
One of the most important things about branding is consistency. If you're consistent, then when someone has a problem, you're the first brand that comes to mind. There's stats out there that says it takes 21 times to see your brand in a consistent way before it's imprinted in my mind. 21 times. So if you're showing up inconsistently, you're restarting that 21 every time. And so how are you ever going to be the first brand that comes to people's mind when you have a problem? There's always some brand that's the first to come to mind.
Yeah.
You want it to be yours. And you do that by being extremely consistent, and a good brand is going to be extremely consistent. And it's so key for the future. Branding is all about creating future demand. Sales is closing current demand.
Yep.
And so if you want sales to go better in the future, just be extremely consistent, and that's where Cracker Barrel messed up, is they lost that consistency. And, we're watching that from a distance, seeing how much money is being lost. But on the day-to-day, it's harder to track how much money you're losing or how much opportunity you're losing just by not being consistent. There's a stat out there that says 23% of revenue can be attributed to consistency alone. And that's because of brand recall. People inevitably are going to have a problem. And if you're the first one they think of, boom, you got the sale.
There you go.
But it takes being consistent to do that.
Where should somebody start?
Say, what do we want people to expect from our brand? And then ask yourself, what actions will create that expectation? And then last one is just, how do I hold my team accountable to doing those actions? If you just do those three things, you're going to look up and see, wow, we got a pretty consistent brand going on here. But something that leaders don't do a lot of is understand how they want to come across to people and observe to see if that's happening. There's a stat out there that says 90% of companies are inconsistent with their brand. 90%. So how much opportunity is there?
Yeah.
If 90% are inconsistent,
Yeah.
and all you got to do is be consistent.
Yeah, just be consistent and do what you say you're going to do and stick to it. And you're going to win.
That's true.
Love it.
100%.
Very helpful. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no problem.
The strongest brands are more than just a logo, and they aren't an accident. They're the result of clear, consistent choices. And if you're ready to really take your business branding to the next level, you need to hear Tim's full talk on transcendent branding from EntreLeadership Master Series. He'll walk you through a step-by-step process for creating a brand that truly connects with customers, and you can watch it for free by clicking the link in the show notes. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.